Level 1, the curious beginner. You're 13 years old and you just watched Mr. Robot. The show is on your laptop propped on a pillow because you cannot afford a proper stand yet. You watch hackers move through systems as if they're reading a book. 3 terminals open, green text, some kind of inevitable genius happening and fast forward. You decide that this is what you want to do. You don't know what you're doing at first, that's important to say clearly. You Google how to hack and find a wall of information that assumes that you know what a Linux terminal is. You don't. Not yet, at least. You find a YouTube video about ethical hacking and it mentions something called Kali Linux. Operating systems, packages, and repositories. Just words that mean nothing at first. You try to install Kali Linux on your laptop. Something goes wrong in a way that you don't understand. You reinstall Windows and you try again 6 months later, and this time it works. Mostly though. You open the terminal. A black screen appears, you type nothing because you have no idea what to type. You're not learning yet, you're just surrounding yourself with the symbols of learning and hoping something sticks. Level 2, the frameworks. You're 15 now and you finally ask the right questions. Not how do I hack, but how do computers actually work? You start following a course that assumes nothing. Operating systems, file systems, what an IP address actually is, why networks even exist. These are frameworks. Once you have frameworks, everything else connects to them. You spend 3 months on basics. Most people stop here. You don't. You keep going. You learn Linux properly. Not hacking with Linux, just Linux. The command line, file permissions, how to navigate without a mouse. It feels inefficient at first. Then it doesn't. Then it's even faster than clicking. And you finally understand why people prefer it. You build a small Python script that does something useless. A password generator. 50 lines of code that accomplishes what 100 websites do. You run it and it works. You don't feel like a hacker. You feel like you did something. And that's the difference between watching and doing. Level 3. First real code. You're 16 now and Python is starting to make sense. You're not copying code anymore. You read code. You understand why it works. You modify it, you break it intentionally to see what breaks. You build something useful. A port scanner. You scan the local host. It finds a service running on port 22. You Google what port 22 is and find out it's SSH. A way to connect remote systems. You still don't know what that means exactly, but you know where to look it up now. You write a script that cracks weak passwords by trying every word in a dictionary. You test it on a password you made weak on purpose. It works in 7 seconds. You understand something has shifted. Code can do things, not theoretical things, real things with consequences. You submit the password cracker to your computer science teacher. He calls you into his office and asks if you wrote it. You say yes. He asks if you understand what it could be used for. You say yes. He says good. Then you understand why I'm not giving you the grade. You get a C. You appreciate this more than the A you got on calculus. Level 4. The Linux rabbit hole. You're 17 and you're in university now. Everyone says install Linux. You're still skeptical. It seems slow, broken, without a clear point. Then you need to use a server for a project. The server runs Linux. You SSH into it and suddenly the command line isn't a hobby anymore. It's the only way to work. You install Linux on your laptop as a dual boot. Windows for games, Linux for work. After 2 weeks, you stop booting into Windows. You delete the partition. You understand something now. You're not just using a computer, you're communicating with it. Level 5. Security makes sense now. You're 18 and someone on a forum mentions that understanding how attacks work means understanding security. You take a course on network security, encryption, authentication, what a vulnerability actually is. For the first time, movie hackers make sense now. Not because they're real, but because you finally understand what it would take for them to be real. The system has inputs, those inputs have assumptions. If the assumptions go wrong, the system fails. This is not hacking. This is just careful thinking about edge cases. You build a small logging system with intentional vulnerabilities, SQL injection, weak password storage. Then you hack into your own system. You get in, you understand what you did and why it worked. You take the CompTIA Security Plus exam. You pass, a certificate arrives with your name on it. You pin it above your desk. It's not much, but it's evidence that you know something. Level 6. Practical attack and defense. You're 19 and you're practicing on Hack the Box. Real vulnerable systems, legal, purpose-built. You spend 3 hours on one box. You try SQL injection, doesn't work. You try directory traversal, doesn't work. You look at the source code hint and realize the vulnerability is in a parameter you didn't check. You exploit it. The flag appears. You feel something shift. Every system has its language. Learn it, and the system speaks to you. The language is usually, what does the system assume? And how can I prove the assumption wrong? You do a dozen boxes, 20, 50. The patterns start repeating. There are maybe 6 fundamental vulnerabilities. Everything else is just a variation. You get your first real job as a junior security analyst. You're hired to read logs and look for attacks. The attacks are everywhere, exactly where the security course said they would be. Level 7. The reality crash. You're 20 in your first week on the job, you realize something. Hacking isn't the job. Reading logs is the job. Writing reports is the job. The hacking part is maybe 2 hours a month if you're lucky. Most people quit here. They came to hack, not to document. You almost do. You spend a week thinking about it. Then you find an actual attack in the logs. Someone tried to brute force an account. Failed. Tried again. Failed. Your report flags it. The account gets locked. The person never tries again. You protected someone without ever meeting them. This matters more than you thought it would. Level 8. Penetration Tester. You're 22 and you've been doing the defensive work for 2 years. You're good at it. Companies start calling you, not to defend, to attack. They're hiring you to break into their systems, legally. You spend 2 weeks on an engagement, finding entry points, lateral movement, privilege escalation. You write a report of everything you found and how you got there. The company fixes all of it. You modified nothing, destroyed nothing, but the company is safer because of the attack you performed. You get your OSCP. It takes 100 hours of study. You failed the exam the first time. You passed the second. The certificate is worth more than the Security Plus because it means you can actually do the thing, not just explain it theoretically. You're part of an elite group now. Less than 5% of security people reach this level. It's not because it's hard, it's because it requires years of grinding. And most people stop. You don't. Level 9, the pattern recognition. You're 25 and something has changed. You're not learning attacks anymore. You're understanding systems. A company comes to you, their Kubernetes cluster is being attacked. They don't know how. 3 engineers can't figure it out. You spend 8 hours with kubectl and security logs and you find it. A misconfigured RBAC policy that allows container escape. It's a small mistake, but small mistakes are where attacks live. Level 10, the respected voice. You're 28 and your name means something in the security community. People you've never met quote you in reports. Researchers cite your findings. A vulnerability you discovered changed how a major tech company thinks about input validation. You built something that others are building upon. You compress the knowledge that took you 15 years into frameworks that new people can master in months. A 16-year-old is somewhere in a bedroom with a laptop propped on a pillow watching Mr. Robot. They're going to Google how to hack and find the exact same amount of information you found. They'll figure it out. Some of them will reach the level you reached. A few of them will go further. Because they'll learn what you learned, but they'll also learn what you didn't. And that's how it's supposed to work.